Okay, welcome everyone to the Business and Industry session. It is my pleasure to introduce Marcelo Soria from BBVA Data Analytics. He's going to present the talk, the unlikely match between financial data and open innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, hello everyone, and good afternoon. Like has been presented, I'm going to talk about the unlikely match of financial data and open innovation. My name is Marcelo Soria-Rodríguez. I work at BBVA Data Analytics, which is a spin-off from BBVA. BBVA, for those of you who don't know, is Spain's second largest bank. We are mostly present also in Latin America. We are first in Mexico, first or second in other countries. We've got 50 million customers. Therefore, we have a lot of data, and therefore we are very present in the whole, let's say, business chain. We have been recently tasked with transforming into a bank that needs to become a digital company. We have been tasked into becoming a digital company. We could even lose the bank part of it. And even though it's not yet clear what this actually means or not, it for sure has lots of things to do with data. As we will see. But the thing is really a bank that can actually become a digital company like those Amazons, those Googles, or those Apples. Those are the examples that our chairman and CEO typically uses to express the type of company that he would like to become. And that's unlikely, at least at the beginning, for a bank that is 150 years old. So it is a pretty conservative institution with issues of trust. So this match between financial data and open innovation to respond to this challenge of becoming a digital company, how does this work? Are we not really, afraid of this unlikely match? Are we not really afraid that this poses a trust issue for a bank which is like the most fundamental part of its business? Is it not a potential risk for the types of activities that we do? Is it not going to bring about public image damage? Well, no. Or maybe yes. Or maybe not really. But it basically depends on how you go about all this transformation. If you do things right, if you take the time to understand what that change means for you, maybe you can actually do it without really running into those pitfalls, into those problems. And this is what we are going to be talking about how we are trying to do this. But anyway, why do we want to become a digital company? Why the push to be Amazon or Google? Well, let's look at the context. Like we've been told in many occasions, it's a digital world nowadays. Well, it's not a digital world, really. What this is, basically, is a world where there's now lots and lots of digital technology that is allowing the integration of services into the lives of people in ways that were previously not possible. And this can actually destroy your business completely. And that's all. So it's not such a complicated picture to understand. Actually, it's happening because all this digital technology and all the advances that we have been seeing in recent times have been lowering the transaction costs enormously. And transaction costs that depend on the cost of communication and the cost of processing the transaction have been going down immensely, like I said. And these typically were the reason to have large organizations, such as a bank, integrating all the vertical functions that you need to provide the service of a bank to customers. Because you could achieve greater economies of scale, or at least you could improve in all the parts of the process and the whole value chain. But this is no longer the case. This is no longer an advantage, because currently we have that with this digital technology precisely, we can start providing the service, each point of each, let's say, little service across the whole value chain. We can provide it in a more efficient way with digital technology, not necessarily needing this whole integration, and it's happening. So it's going to destroy you if you don't adapt. Again, there's a way out of all this. Like we said, this is breaking up value chains in ways we have never seen before. Like this has been happening for the music industry, of course. This is happening now, for example, to the lodging industry. You see the Airbnbs of the world and you see the Ubers of the world doing this because they no longer need to become, like a very big company that owns, for example, I don't know, hotels to offer rooms to people. They can just intermediate in a new way, disintermediating other people. And taking advantage of this new digital technology to do all these things. What about banks? Well, banks actually have been doing the same thing that the Airbnbs and the Ubers of the world have been doing for a long time. The Airbnbs take your room and they sell it to a stranger that you don't know, and the Uber takes your ride and they sell it to a stranger. Banks have been taking your money and selling it to strangers for a lot of time, which is what banks do. They take money, they give money to other people, and then they charge some interest so they can give you back your money and they can make money out of that. So the thing is, we are next in line to be disrupted by all this, despite all these considerations, because this intimidation, this more efficient use of technology to be able to provide services at a smaller scale is coming to us now. Amazon is giving credit to their merchants, to the merchants that operate within their platform. Amazon has excellent data about their merchants, so they can provide credit in a very unrisky way, if you want. So they are going to, they can come and do this type of job much better than we can. And then there are lending P2P platforms. And then there's all sorts of things that can actually be a very big problem for us. So we need to start adapting also right away. Or we can just wait to be washed up by the competition, to be forgotten, discarded by natural evolution. I think that it's key to understand that the interconnectedness is actually fueling this whole revolution. This interoperation of all these new digital services will not work if we didn't have these new capabilities of connectivity, right, in technology and society. And the thing is, this has happened before. And I'm going to show why, or at least try to show why this happened actually a long time ago when a new type of connectivity appeared and things happened. This is a part of the brain that we have. This is the primitive brain. It evolved from simpler nervous systems a long time ago. And it evolved into centralizing some functions and adopting a modular functioning principle. So there were like some modules that were kind of specialized. This is a massive simplification, but for the sake of the argument, you have to bear with me. And those modules were sparsely interconnected. They didn't really have a lot of connectivity among themselves. And that is a model that is okay to confront some limited complexity. But still, it was a step ahead compared to what was available before in terms of nervous systems. So this was good, and this started to populate the planet. Just too low complexity. So it couldn't really do a lot more. But then this new evolution happened, this new innovation, let's say, happened. And it is that living beings brains started having cortices. And cortices have a gradiental mode of function, let's say. So it's simple elements, densely interconnected. They are not really highly specialized, each element. So a neuron is just a neuron, but when a neuron works in a network with other neurons, it starts acquiring some type of functionality, and then this group of neurons works with this other group of neurons, and things start happening. And these beings have a much better capacity to adapt to a more complex environment, okay? But then the ultimate revolution happened some time ago when mammals evolved the neocortex. And in the neocortex, there is a much higher density of interconnection between these simple elements. So the number of activation patterns that are available is orders of magnitude higher than in previous, let's say, computing models of the brain. And what this gives us is a much higher capacity to actually adapt to changing conditions such a not digital world that is going to take your business out of business, basically. So these types of brains can do things such as land a probe on a comet that is 500 million kilometers from Earth, which is not too bad. And by the way, since this is a big data conference, you can think that this neocortex is actually your big data computing platform of sorts. This is what is actually having its associative cortices, which bring in different input data, different sensory data, combining it, trying to come up with an answer. And actually, there is a part of this neocortex, which is the frontal lobes, what we have here. Hopefully, I have it too. That is the part that is kind of in command. It's the part that is in charge of putting order in all those different patterns of, different possibilities of activation patterns in the brain. So what we are now trying to do with all these big data techniques, we do deep learning, we do pattern recognition, emotion detection, I don't know, speech recognition, predictive analytics, whatever you want. This is all things that kind of our internal machine has been doing for years as a way to adapt to changing conditions for one reason only. It was not just because technology was cool. No, it was because it wanted to maximize biological value, which is it wanted to live on. It just wanted to perpetuate. It wanted to be still colonizing the Earth. So it wanted to be able to adapt and evolve. And that maximizing of biological value is really interesting. And for me, it's really interesting that, that the model went from low connectivity to very high connectivity, from highly vertically specialized modules to a more distributed network. And this is what we are seeing now in this not digital world, where digital technology is actually doing this. Let me go for exhibit B to support my theory that this becoming a digital bank and open innovation have something to do. We're going to have a look at your guts and your microbiota. Your microbiota is the bacteria that live within your guts. There's a 10-to-1 ratio of microbiota to your actual cells. So there's more bacteria in you than you, actually. Actually, these weigh 1 to 2 kilograms in your gut. So it's pretty considerable. It's not something that you don't really interact with it very much. But actually, it has a very strong importance on who you are, even. There are some studies now, and I'm no expert in this, but I've been reviewing some papers, and there are some studies that start finding interesting correlations or interesting relationships between what these guys are doing down here and your stress response, your mood, your motor coordination. So basically, I really like this story because it's like, for all the power that we may have in our brain, we are actually just one in a full network of beings to be us. So we are not just ourselves, we are us with a lot of other agents that help you. And these other agents are going to help you if you operate in a platform. My guts are a platform for other entities that will mediate with my central nervous system, with my immune system, and with lots of other things. And if they are wrong, my business is going to be wrong, and I'm not going to be able to maximize my biological value. And that's what digital companies do. If you look at the Googles, the Amazons, the Apples, they all have some sort of platform. I don't care if it's closed or open or whatever, but without the network and without the interconnectivity that lies around them, there is really little chance for them to achieve the scale that they have achieved, right? Because the new world is interconnected. Let's go back to data for a moment. In this conference, I guess it's not necessary to say that, good Lord. I don't know what is necessary to say or not, probably that, oh, no. Let's do it like this. This doesn't work either. My Mac crashed. I was talking about Apple and, and interconnectivity, and now it's coming up. But it's not really coming up. Well, this should be a video of people walking around their lives, doing all sorts of things. And that's just a representation of everything that we do, because everything that we do is actually leaving a digital trace of data behind us, right? We all know this. And with all that data, I'm going to discard this completely. I'm going to go back to my computer. And my computer is also crashed. This is very embarrassing. Let me restart this for a second. Okay. It really crashed really badly. I'm going to restart the computer live. I'm going to be the guts I'm going to be the microbiota in the computer's guts. And now it's not even coming back up. This is everything that could go wrong is going wrong. It's taking as long as it wants. Anyway, so what I was going to say about data, and probably you don't need to really be told about that because you're at a data conference, but anyway, everything generates a ton of data, right? And with that ton of data, what happens is that we have an excellent description of life. And with an excellent description of life, you can start bringing about much better adaptation to your context. And that's what it's interesting to me. And this is coming back up fairly quickly now. Let me go back here. Let's see if it works. Now this is much better. So, sorry about that. But all that data is largely unshared. All that data is largely not interconnected with other data, okay? So the data lives wherever it needs to live. But if you make a phone call, the records for the phone call are on the company's database. And if you make a purchase, your credit card record stays at the bank's database. And if you sign that you received the parcel, you know the story. So what can we do with all that data? What have we been trying to say about interconnectedness and people working together, or people and bacteria working together? We need to understand that all the data can do things for us. So what can we do with our data? We, as a bank, what data do we have? I cannot believe that this, oh no, okay. So the data that we started using some time ago as some internal experimentation trying to figure out what we could do to adapt to this new situation. So we started using anonymized, aggregated data sets of credit card transactions with from, to, so from where do you come from, where are you spending your money, spending category, gender, age, amounts, whatever. Okay, lots of data points. And with all the data, we started, very small, doing very small experiments, such as let's plot all the points of sale in Madrid. This is Madrid. On top of the map, and if we actually removed the map, you would still see the city of Madrid because the data points, the points of sale, are dense enough. And then if we plot whatever measure of our data on top of that map, like for example the average age of the people that are going about and spending money there, and we plot in blue the younger people and in green the older people, then those of you who know Madrid maybe know that this area there, which is bluer, is next to this university campus. And this bluer area here is where people actually go out at night, which is what you would expect young people to be doing their things. And then this is a more expensive part of the city, and then there is not so much spending by young people because they don't have such a good spending capabilities. And this is just to show that things that you already knew are present in the data, but then once you have this tool to understand life, then you can bring this tool to another geography or another metaphorical geography, so another context, and it will help you understand that. It's just a data model, right? We did some more experiments on this, which I will show because it's fairly also illustrative. We plotted, during the Easter week of 2011, we plotted all the transactions made in Spain in 4 spending categories. In yellow, there are gas stations. In blue, there are groceries. In pink, it's fashion. And in red, it's bars and restaurants. Now we are already on Wednesday that week. Next day is going to be a national holiday in more than half of the country. So you see that people go out and buy groceries because next day, groceries shops are closed. There's still some activity in groceries next day because of all the parts of the country that don't have a holiday, but you start seeing already a red spike there of people who go out to eat. Then on Friday, it's a national holiday in the whole country, so nobody's buying anything, but everyone is going out to eat, and at night, they go out to eat also, and actually, if you notice, they all go out to the coast of Spain because they have 3 days of holidays. Then on Saturday, shops are open again. They all go out and buy food because they run out of food. We like to eat in this country. And then on Sunday, you see, again, maybe a little bit more yellow gas stations because all the people that went to the beaches go back to Madrid because, and actually you can see all the roads plotted there, not at night. But anyway, what I wanted to illustrate with this is, again, that the data that we have that is unshared, the data that is hidden out somewhere, is extremely good to describe reality. It is extremely good to gain a better understanding of what is going on. And if we gain a better understanding of what is going on, and we can select the right activation pattern of our companies, then we can adapt better. So on opening up, we saw that this was really a way forward, trying to share the data, because of all the things that I've been saying about interconnecting it with other maybe data sources or other brains to do other things, and having the microbiota doing stuff. But how did we go about this process? So we started very small, like I said, with these very simple maps. These were not yet open, and we started trying to figure out the value that was actually there in all that data for third parties and ourselves. You need to explore, and then you need to learn, and that's what we were doing there. And once you learn, you can convince, and believe me, that video worked magic to convince people that this is something where we had to work. And once you have convinced someone, then you can explore with more money. And if you explore with more money, basically you learn more. And the more you learn, the better you adapt. And the more able you are to succeed in this not digital world that will take your business away. So our first approach to open was trying to understand which products can we build for third parties, not for ourselves. Of course, we can do lots of things with the data internally as well. We can improve business processes. We can, I don't know, do the typical things that companies do with data, and the not so typical ones, because we have like a different mindset to think about different things. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that. We said, what can we do for others? And we thought, well, let's try to put ourselves in the shoes of someone else. And this is the spice market in Istanbul. And let's focus on this guy here, Mehmet. Mehmet has been running a spice business for some years. And he's looking at me with my camera, and he's like, I wish I knew more about the type of people that go about here in the market, because my business is not really going that well, and these guys with the cameras are not spending any money here. So we have seen the types of description of activity that we can do with our data. So maybe we can help in bringing retail intelligence to third parties through our data. And trying to think about this in a framework, we thought, okay, what does a retailer know about their business? They know something about their customers, for sure. They know something about their area where they operate, and they know something about their sector, their line of business. If they sell books, they know about books. But then they don't know exactly what are their customers when they are at a shoe store, because how would I know? I don't know. They don't know what their customers are doing when they're buying at other bookstores. Or they don't know what non-customers are doing, people that are going by my shop, but they don't enter. Or people that are buying books in other areas of the city. Maybe I would be interested in knowing that, because in all these questions that lie scattered in this space where these guys don't know what to do, there are opportunities. They can improve by, I don't know, building a cross-selling program, improving on the loyalty programs. They can do diversification of their business, expansion. They can modify their opening hours depending on the spending patterns that they see in the places where their shops are open. They could decide to open a new shop in some other place. I don't know. There are lots of things that they could do. So in order to do that, we have built a tool. As this first step in opening up, we have built a tool that is basically a new tool to understand, a new map, let's say, for their environment, that helps them adapt better. And with this, we are going to help them, well, we are helping them understand their context based on activity, which is very important, and based on the interconnectivity of all that. Then a second approach to open, and this is a more, let's say, bold one, is targeted to basically everyone else. This is where the microbiota start to do their magic. Because what if we open our guts to the microbes? That sounds not very good, but we launched a challenge last year where we released 6 months of credit card aggregated data in Spain. And it was just in the shape of a contest. We wanted to see what people would be doing with all this data, what new ideas they would be having, and if this would be a viable business. We had 140 apps, lots of new ideas, really interesting ones, and really also interesting new takes on things that we had already thought about. And just as an example, one company from here in Barcelona, Digital, came up with this tool to, for example, analyze the impact of whatever event in the city through the mix of Twitter data and our data, and see if there were spikes at the same moment, and if there were correlations between certain types of social activity and other things. And this is the network, the interconnectivity is starting to work, starting to do something. And of course, this was just a tool that was presented to a contest, and nothing else came out of that because we stopped it. Because we needed to learn from everything that happened there and then to refocus everything. So we went and we launched this new contest this year in Nova Challenge, second part, let's say, with data from Mexico, where we released 6 months of data from our operations in Mexico, where we are the first bank. And this is actually open now. Actually, the contest is closing in like a week or something. So if you want to do something, you have to be really quick. But it's again an extremely interesting experiment where we open this, and of course the internet is global. It's not just Mexican people signing up for the contest or Spanish people. We've got people from 30-something countries, I don't remember right now. But it's this quality of interconnectedness of the internet acting quickly. So what are the limits in all this? Because opening up cannot be so easy, right? First of all, it's a new business. We're a bank. We are a financial services company. We are not a data company. So how can you solve this issue? Well, what we did is we created this spin-off where I am working now. BBVA Data Analytics has been created has been tasked with, like I said before, helping in bringing BBVA into a new era and deriving new value from the data troves that we have. So that's one way that you can go around that limit. There are limits regarding reputation, of course. For example, in the challenge that we opened last year, one of the apps that was presented was named Startup or Still, because if you know, for example, where is a specific type of activity with people who spend a lot on that type of activity, you can decide to open a shop there or to just wait and steal everyone who is passing on the street, because you know that there are people with money. Of course, the API is protecting that very well because of all the anonymization and the aggregation, so it's very difficult to know if there's one person with money. It's not possible. But anyway, that's something that you need to take into account very, very dearly when you do this. And then there is the limit of privacy, and then there is the limit of privacy, and then there is the limit of privacy, and this is extremely important. Because this is what can take any effort of opening up down very quickly, and this has happened already to some companies, to some banks, to some telcos, where they have been trying to go this route, and they have been really hitting the wall against this. But privacy is basically a problem of perception of value. If you don't give the people something that they want, maybe they will not accept the deal. But I don't know, everyone is using Gmail, and Gmail, I don't think it's invading my privacy, but it does have an algorithm that is, checking my emails and deciding things and putting me ads, and maybe I don't like that. But it gives me value back. So if it gives me value back, then I am not so bothered about that. So when some companies, I don't know, are complaining that they cannot do things because their customers are going to be afraid, you have to think about this. You have to think of, you have to think about the value that your customers perceive. And regarding privacy, there was this example that I really liked. people are really like this startup or still, it's kind of creepy maybe to think that you can make very detailed maps of activity, which are behavior maps, so you know what people are doing, so you know. But actually, when the Haiti earthquake struck, the OpenStreetMaps community walked in, and in 48 hours, new satellite imagery was available. And they were mapping the whole country very quickly to reflect how the country had remained after that. And these maps are what helped actually the relief teams to go and help people. And that was open, and that was interconnected. And without the open part, if people were, I don't know, wary about their privacy because, you know, maybe satellite images are looking at whatever we are doing, this wouldn't have been possible. So what about an open transaction maps for relief? What if something happens and you need to understand how people are moving in that region, how people are behaving financially in that region, how they have been struck with that. Maybe we can do this thing without data. Maybe I don't know, telco companies can contribute with data. Actually, they do in some cases. There are some really interesting cases of battling malaria with telco data. So the perception of value is a problem of understanding your context, of understanding who is around you and who are the users of that data and who were the original generators of that data. And getting to them and solving, let's say, these issues is a problem of communication and good service design. So again, it's about finding what's the value for them, and it's about really being very exquisite with your communication. You really have to be very careful with that. You really have to be at the top of your game with that, because otherwise you won't understand what people understand about what you do. And you don't understand what they want, and this is like a very mingled thing, and you really need to get this right, because if you don't get it right, if you just take things for granted, you know, people are people and they do whatever they want. And they're very hard to predict. And I'm not really a data scientist, but we've been doing some prediction things, and people are hard sometimes. There are some other research that say that people are extremely predictable, and in some cases they are, but in some cases they aren't. And regarding public opinion, too complicated for me. So you need to really be very careful with this. So this is an example of one service that we are building on top of the data platform that we are doing. And this is a way of exposing the capabilities of the data to third parties, to anyone. It's not my customers, it's, I know, the whole world. This is a recommendation engine of what to do, where to go, based on the transaction history and the interconnectedness of those transactions of our customers. Aggregated, anonymized, and so on. It's impossible to know anything. But this is something that is actually adding some value. People understand that this is going to help us do something, and maybe with this they are okay. And you just need to design it well, and you need to communicate it well, and this is extremely important always. And let's see if this crashes again. No. Then another thing that you really need to do, and this is something that I think we all have to improve on, is that you need to give control to people, to the people who are generating the data that you are going to use and open. You need to give them control over what they want, and you need to be transparent over what you know about them in the first place, over what you are computing about them, which they don't know at all. Okay, I know my name, I know which my address is, but I don't know how am I categorized by any company that is working with me. So maybe we should be transparent with all that. And if we are, and this is just a dimension of communication, if we are, things are going to be much smoother, because remember that maximizing biological value is actually about good communication also, and good service design. Like if you have a good personal interface, maybe you can maximize your biological value. So what's next in this road? We are opening up our neocortex to, external inputs. We are finding which is our gut microbiota, and what we are going to do is we are going to release the Open Data API commercially in the first quarter of next year, because this is the way to actually drive growth and to drive actually the generation of new opportunities, not for our company, but for the rest of the world. It's like yesterday I heard in one of the talks here that first you need to make sure that you generate more value than you capture, and I cannot agree more with that. Because if you do that, then it's going to be very good for you as well, and it's going to be very good for the whole community. We are going to be adding more data sources to this. And at some point, we will add the possibility of working with the fine-grained data, because instead of opening up the data, what we're going to be doing is opening up the possibility of you executing your code, your algorithms on my data. So there's no issues of privacy. I will check your code and make sure that you are not really doing anything evil to find out about a person, and that's a way to go. And then what else is in the world? More data is going to be shared more and more, we think. There is this initiative in the UK called My Data, which is encouraging companies to give back the data to the customers. So if I am the customer of a telco company, I want to have absolutely everything downloadable in a machine-readable format, and this is not always the case. Basically, this is almost never the case. If this becomes the norm, then extremely exciting things can start to happen, because there will be platforms that aggregate this type of personal data, because there will be opt-in of users to publicly share their data, and there will be actors who will be like anonymizers of data so that you can actually do that. And all that is just a new value chain in new business models that we don't even know right now what they are. But this is exactly what happened when the neocortex appeared. Those entities didn't know that they were going to land a probe on a comet lots of kilometers away. So there's going to be personal data platforms. I really believe in this. There are many companies already doing things like this, probably still not in the right way or form, but it's extremely important to understand what we were talking about before, communication and understanding where is value, to get this right. And at some point, we will get to this. This is some design fiction. And this is, I just love this. It's a catalog that was published recently, the TV catalog, where you can see like everyday ordinary products of the future integrated into very current life. And this is, I love this, original algorithms and artisanal APIs for your connected home, garden, and bicycle. This is just lovely. And I really love the concept, because I really think that it might happen. I don't know if this is good or bad, but I think it's a great tool to think about the future. Algorithm or publishing fiction. This is, I don't know if you can read it, but this creates lovely works of matrix fiction based on a custom book for you based on books you've read and enjoyed, and a matrix of genre relationships and whatnot. And this is just products that can be built once you start opening up everything. There will be people who will design this for sure at some point. So remember, you need to start small and iterate. If you want to go the open route, you need to be very careful and be step by step, but delivering value at every point. You always need to be very transparent, and you always need to take care of communicating well. You need to understand what your context is, where your data fits in that context. And you need to understand who your new customers are, and both what your old and new customers want. That's really key. And with that, I thank you for your attention. And it looks like we've got 2 minutes for questions, in case there's any. So feel free. Ask about the future of APIs. Yes, sir? Okay, so the question is feedback from customers or media or anyone who has gotten to know about this. Well, we were always very wary of this, of course, right? Because it's banks opening up my data. But the thing is, we've taken a lot of care in the communicating part of it. So in some cases, the services are perceived as that they actually provide value. In some cases, maybe they say, you know what, this is not so valuable to me, but at least there hasn't been like a public outcry or fear, let's say, right? Because we are taking the right steps to communicate properly. Again, we might misstep at some point. Everyone makes mistakes, but you cannot, let's say, refrain from doing all these things just because of that, because then you're never going to innovate. And if you don't innovate, if you don't evolve in this chain, this not digital world that is going to take your business away is going to take your business away. Thank you. No more questions. Come on, over there. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the question is why the spin-off instead of doing everything inside? First of all, there is a regulatory issue. A financial institution cannot sell services that are not financial services, and this, for example, the tool for retailers is a marketing intelligence tool, sort of, right? And the open data API is not a financial service at all. It's based on financial data, but it's not a financial service. It's a data product, I don't know. So this is something that the bank cannot market. So that's first of all. Then there are all the issues that is, I don't know, you need also to, something that it really didn't touch upon there, but if you really want to do these things, it's pretty good to have like an kind of isolated team, because otherwise the traditional business is going to be too heavy, and you cannot really operate within that ecosystem to do things as radical as this. There was a talk yesterday talking about transformative innovation, and it's that when you do transformative innovation, you're going to destroy your old business. And if you're within your old business, it's not going to let it happen. Over there. So the question is, what are we just exposing data, or also predictions over the data? So the result of algorithms that we apply to the data. So initially, it's only data. At some point, it will be great to expose that. And actually, we have some projects that are looking into that. But first, we need to know, well, if they create value or not. And that's why we're in the experimentation phase. But I guess that it's much better that you create the predictive algorithm, because you know, the open community will have more ideas and perhaps better algorithms. Thank you. No more.
So, thank you.
Thank you.